everybody. I'm Delegate Ken Plum. Welcome to our show, Virginia Report. Think electric transportation is your future? Well, you just stick around for a couple minutes. We're going to try to convince you that electric transportation is here today. And we've got proof in some of my guests tonight. Let's welcome first to a good Walt Constantine, a neighbor and a technologist. Walt, you've been driving an electric car for some time.
Yes, I have.
Good. Gwen Whitaker runs Greenfire Vegan Restaurant in Herndon. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And you've been a long time owner.
50,000 miles.
50,000 miles, wonderful. Patty Nicholson, chair of the president of the Dulles Corridor Rail Association, a new Nissan Leaf owner that's all electric. So welcome to our show.
Good to be here.
Well, Walt, we sometimes hear people when they're concerned about the environment and what we can do to deal with environmental change, recognize that our transportation system is a real offender in terms of detriment to our environment. But the electric vehicle might be a possible change, and you've explored that change.
Yes, I have. I I was looking for a new car when my son, my teenage son, was starting to drive. I knew we needed an extra car, and started looking around. And I've just been, as a technologist, I've always been intrigued by electric vehicles. So I decided to take the plunge and buy a Chevy Volt, and it was just, for me, it was just a complete change. I mean, I was thrilled that it's fun to drive. I love the gas mileage. I was getting about 100 miles per gallon, and I've never experienced anything like that.
Your Chevy Volt's about 100 miles per gallon.
About 100 miles per gallon. I've had it for 40,000 miles now, and I've got 100 miles per gallon.
We're going to come back to you and talk about another vehicle you've invested in as well.
Yes, yes.
But Gwen, we're going to go to you, and you're a longtime owner of a Tesla, and you say 50,000 miles worth. Do you run out of juice ever on the side of the road?
So I bought the car online in November, and the car was delivered in March 3 years ago. I thought it was lunatic fringe versus bleeding edge at the time because there weren't a lot of charging stations then. So I did run out once at the very onset. Tesla was amazing in their support and ability to actually get me back on the road. And I had a Lexus for 2 generations before that. When I got the Tesla, I sold the Lexus and never looked back. So it's been an awesome transition.
Tesla owners kind of are an enthusiastic group, I'll say. I mean, you're kind of a cheerleading group, wouldn't you say? I mean, don't you meet with other owners, for example?
Absolutely. It's a really interesting group. I think everybody, once you make that transition into an electric car, it's quiet, it's safe, it's fast, it's technologically a beautiful car, and so there's so many features that are different from other cars, and then you know that you're never buying oil or gas again, and you're sort of cutting your leash on the oil and gas industry. So it's been a fantastic transition.
What do you lose on pickup and ability to pass cars on the interstate?
So it's like being in a Star Wars video, you know, where you're push on the accelerator and the car just takes off. It's linear acceleration. It's 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. So it's like 440 horsepower. So I think it's on par with some of the Maserati. So I'm not a big car person, actually. Right. I've never been a car person. And the Tesla is almost more of a software platform instead of a vehicle. It actually is the only car that gets better over time when you get software downloads and it adds a new feature and functionality. One day I got in the car and there were lines showing the trajectory of the car as I went in reverse that hadn't been there the day before. Amazing. So it gets better.
Yeah.
Other cars go like this and Tesla goes like that.
I asked the question about the acceleration because some people seem to have a notion that you lose acceleration when in fact you don't.
Right.
You can drive on any of the interstates and you can pass anybody you want. You really have the power you need to do what you have to do. Patty, you were driving a Prius, as I do, for many years. It has, of course, it's a hybrid electric, about 50 miles to a gallon. But when you decided to change cars, you've gone to a Nissan Leaf. What led to your decision to go to an all-electric car?
I wanted to get off the grid. And I thought a 100-mile range would meet most of my needs. I can travel down to the district. Round trip's about 46 miles. Out to Leesburg, another 46 miles. So I didn't think I'd really get stuck. And it turns out Reston has a lot of places where you can plug things in. Although I went down to 15 miles once, and I headed over to a hotel to recharge, and the space was full. And I thought, oh, you have to factor that into your calibrations.
Right.
So I top it off every night too, just to make sure I have enough power.
Top it off means you plug it in at your
Yes.
home.
Yes, I do.
And the experience that you've had in terms of driving around, any
Well, it's
diminution?
quiet. You ask when. My son, when he took it out for a spin, he stepped on the accelerator, and he was impressed. You can pick up and go. I'm not the pick up and go type, but
Right.
he could.
Yeah.
No, it's just very quiet. The car itself is comfortable, pretty large. I think maybe even a little bit larger than the Prius.
I think it's larger than the Prius too.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now, Walt, you invested first in the Volt, and the Volt
Right.
is a little different than the Tesla and the Nissan Leaf in that it is more like a Prius. It also has a internal combustion engine.
It does. So it has it only has an electric propulsion system. So you are only driving the wheels with an electric motor. It does have a gas engine, but it serves as a generator only.
Exactly.
So as you get down to the end of your range, you'll trigger the engine to start, and it will start just producing enough electricity in time for your needs. So you can go anywhere really with it.
Sure. Now,
Yeah.
what's your range in terms of all electric?
All electric, it varies based on climate. So when it's cold, I would say 28 miles. When it's warm in the summertime, in the mid-40s.
Okay.
And it's really all about watt hours per mile is what it's really doing. So
Translate that for me.
it's using more watts per mile, watt hours per mile of energy to because it's also heating you, and it's heating its own batteries.
Got you. Okay.
So in the end, it's
Yeah.
the same amount of energy in your battery, but you're just using it up in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you've had the experience with the Volt,
Mm-hmm.
and for folks who commute, for example, a lot of people live, say, 5 or 10 miles from work. You
Mm-hmm.
could conceivably not ever use your gasoline engine because you can also plug your Volt in.
Right.
You can charge it at home or at one of the charging stations.
True.
So you could go without using your gasoline at all if you chose to.
And yes, and I found myself doing that. I work in Sterling.
Okay.
That's maybe about a 9-mile commute. So I'm exactly your example.
Right.
I drive 9 miles to work. I drive 9 miles home. If I run an errand or two in a Volt, I rarely would use any gas. But then if I have a kid that goes to TJ, I have to go down there.
Right.
That would be it. I'd start using gas by the time I went down there.
But you made a decision also now, as you add another car to your family, to go to the Tesla. And what brought about that decision?
Well, I'm a techie.
Okay.
So I agree with what you with what she just said. It's just I have a friend who has one. I test drove his one time, and I just loved it. That was really it. I drove his car once, and I said, "Man, I've got to have this thing."
Yeah, okay.
I love the range. I like the fact that it does update itself and change over time. Really, the range was what I was looking for. I think I liked the idea of going completely electric and using zero oil.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone that way everywhere in my life, pretty much.
Right. And what is that range?
There are different models. The one I got is a 90 kilowatt hour battery, so it has about 280 miles of range.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It works on the same charging station that your Volt does?
When I installed my charging station, I future-proofed myself by putting in one that delivered more amperage than I needed for the Volt.
Okay.
So I got a 60 amp. I put in 2 chargers. One of them delivers up to 50 amps, and the other one delivers up to 30. So I figured I could, for the foreseeable future, upgrade to other cars and be able to. So to be able to charge my car. So
And that's proven true that you can?
It has.
Yeah, okay.
I can charge the Tesla as quickly as it will take as it will take a charge using AC current, using my charger. So
How did you manage the charging? Do you have a station at home to be able to charge at home?
I installed a station at home. I can make it to Virginia Tech and charge down there when I'm down there. So a single charge will get me all the way to Virginia Tech. I can go to Norfolk, Virginia on a charge. Actually, I stop in Richmond now, but the range has gotten better. You know, I think there was a concern about range anxiety early on, and now with the number of charging stations out there, it's really not an issue. If you're going to drive 2 to 3 hours, most people are going to want to stop anyway and take a 10-minute break. And so with the Tesla, you can pull into the premier parking spot and some of the off centers of the interstate, charge a car, and be on the road within 15 minutes to the next location.
So at a charging station, you can charge that fast?
I believe it's 15 to 20 minutes. We'll get about 80% of the charge. And so I have one of the higher performance models that has the dual charger. So in the Tesla charging stations, it actually fills the battery in dual with a dual range.
Okay. The reason I have this conversation is, again, when you talk to people about electric car as an option, there's this concern about range. My Prius doesn't run forever without stopping and getting some gas. An electric car doesn't run forever without getting some electricity. But what are you finding now in terms of availability of charging stations?
It's certainly gotten better. So with the Tesla GPS, you can look at the number of charging stations, and I routinely look at what's happening, especially in the UK and in China, to make decisions on whether to buy more stock in the company. And if you look at what's happening in China right now, the number of charging stations in the combustion, environmentally polluted environments are significantly increasing. So it's just spiraling like this in China. In Amsterdam now they use a fleet of Teslas as their taxi cabs. So the UK has very much resource limited, and so they've really embraced the electric technology and are promoting a lot of incentives to get citizens to make the changeover.
I was in Amsterdam a year ago, and it seemed to me like there was a charging station just about in every block. They were just very common. And Patty, you've been researching it because you just invested recently, and you're finding around Reston, I know at Plaza America, there are charging stations, and where else?
Well, for the charge I get when I do my groceries, it's insignificant, but it does get me a good parking place.
Yeah, okay.
So there are 2 in the lot, and I think 2 more in the garage, and in the garages in town center there are more. But I haven't, locally I haven't needed them. I leased a car now to go to New York to see my family, so that's the trade-off for the long distance. Until I figure out how to use the stopovers along the way.
And you're a new user. You're going to have your car, what, 2 months?
1 month.
1 month. So now, Walt, the news we've been reading recently is that Tesla's going to have a new model coming out, and a couple 100,000 people have bought it already.
Yes.
Is that a good investment?
I would think so.
Now, what do you see as the selling points of going to electric transportation? Because you've certainly done it in a big way.
I think the biggest thing is getting, as you were saying, getting off the oil platform. I think that's the biggest thing. It costs less. There's a lot less pollution. Although some people would argue you don't know how this electricity is being generated. I say I don't worry about that because that can be solved.
Issue.
That can be solved though.
Right.
So I like the idea that at least in what I'm doing is contributing to less pollution. So yeah.
Well, tell me about updating. I don't think I'd ever focused on that with the Tesla. So you go out and you turn your car on and you recognize the control panel looks a little different because you've got some new features.
For me, it happened last night.
Yeah,
this morning, as I got into my car to come here, it said there's a new update.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't have enough time to read what had happened.
Yeah.
Because I needed to get here, but.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So what's its connectivity? It's kind of like it has its own phone wireless
Bluetooth.
connection.
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth. Oh, Bluetooth, of course. Yeah.
Or Wi-Fi, and it will connect to your own Wi-Fi at your home.
Okay.
Which is what I did. I just put another antenna on the side inside my house, but facing towards the car. And
Yeah. Now, there's an unfortunate conversation going on in Virginia about how these cars are to be sold, and we were hoping that we work out that. There was a controversy back when we started selling them in Northern Virginia, and that finally got worked out where Tesla could sell directly. The auto sales per people in Virginia, the dealerships are accustomed to the fact that they do the sales, not the manufacturer, and the Tesla model is a little different than that. So I'm confident we're going to get that worked out. It's a bit of trauma to existing dealerships. But Gwen, the word I hear back about the Tesla support is quite phenomenal in terms of the support that you get as an owner.
I think Consumer Reports, the customer satisfaction, they had to create a new scale. It was over 100% when they surveyed customers. People were just raving about the support. Even after having upscale cars for years, the 24/7 roadside assistance, when you have any light that shows up on your dashboard, you dial the toll-free number and you get somebody online. They can tell you what the problem is, what to do about it. They offer free towing support. So it's been feeling like they're in the car with you if there's ever an issue. You know, they have a lot of, they can basically see where you are. They can look up all the metrics on your car in their database and see what the state of the car is at the current time. I wanted to add another investment that I had made is in the home storage batteries that are being manufactured by Tesla. They're not available yet, but if you have a solar panel, you can start storing electricity in these storage units that then would charge the car. So, you know, in the future, you can see that is something I think that Tesla has incorporated into their plans. Is how do you completely get off the grid and have a solar option for the car?
Well, certainly we hear a lot about Tesla as a car company, but it's also a battery company that's pretty significant in terms of its research in terms of battery production. We recently had a guest on the show who's in Richmond, has a manufacturing company that's off the grid, and his intermediate step is to have a battery, which is now lead acid batteries, but I know he's going to look for more capacity as time goes by, and this would offer him an opportunity to do that. Has your electric bill gone up now that you're juicing up your car at home?
in my case, at the same time, I changed, and maybe I shouldn't have done it this way, but I radically changed all the power sources, all my light bulbs in the house. So I actually changed most of my bulbs from incandescent to either LED or CFL.
Yeah.
And that almost balanced out the use of my car.
Interesting.
Just about the same.
You can run your car for the cost of a light bulb.
That was about what I found.
Amazing, amazing.
I actually, yeah. So now I'm basically, I saw no change in my bill by doing it that way.
When any,
I did somewhat of a similar thing. I installed a geothermal system to heat my house, and it was about the same time that I bought the Tesla to offset the increase in electricity. So I got a net neutral decrease in the amount of power that I was using because the heat is so intensive on the electricity system.
Walt, are you familiar with the other automobiles that are all electric, not looking at the Volt model, but looking at the Tesla and Nissan Leaf is all electric, and who else is, do you know other cars that are all electric?
I'm not too familiar with the other brands.
Okay. And I'm not real sure either. Some of them have the hybrid situation again, where you still have a gas motor.
And they don't get much of a range. I looked at a couple of them.
Yeah.
So the new Italian sports cars are all electric. They're multi-million-dollar, high-performance sports cars. So that's what the future is. There was a video on YouTube about these basically Formula One cars that were all electric, and it was very cool. It's all you hear is traffic noise from the tire friction. They had Tesla had an event down at the Richmond Raceway where we were able to drive the Teslas on the speed track. And it was really fun and cool. It was not. It was was like watching a whole bunch of the hydroplanes, gracefully roaring around the track without the roar.
I participated in that, and it was
Okay.
my
Oh,
first
okay.
experience of being in a Tesla, and I was impressed.
Yeah.
Now, you were on a banked racetrack, and we weren't trying to race, we were simply to drive the cars. But that extra weight that the battery brings to, I guess, to the center of the car means it gives it incredible stability. And then the wonderful screen that you have that provides you the information about your driving, it's actually big enough to be able to see. You know, most GPSs are little things like this.
Right.
Yours is like so, and very, very usable. What recommendations do you have for people who are thinking about making this decision? And obviously a lot of people have decided to make a decision on the Tesla because they've bought the next model coming out. Any precautions, thoughts, suggestions you would have for new purchasers?
I guess one of the factors is this $7,500 tax credit you get.
Right.
But I had heard that that was tied to the number of vehicles that were produced by that manufacturer.
Right.
200 and something thousand.
Correct.
I don't know what the status of that is long term, but you'd want to get in before that, I think.
And I think that's, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that federal tax credit is still available, but there is a limitation on the number of vehicles that are sold. So
Right.
you do buy in January, if you will, or you buy early in the year, so you don't get cut out by the number.
Again, more people are
Yeah.
leasing. That's the good news, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, more
is-
people are leasing. which is
And they'll
awesome.
roll that into your lease. They'll roll that into your
Okay.
lease. Yeah.
So you can get the tax credit even though you lease.
That's what my experience has been.
Okay.
I would say place your order soon so you can get early in the queue for the new cars coming out because there's such a strong demand.
What's unique about the new model that's coming out? Do you have a sense of what's different?
So the new model that's coming out is going to be more affordable and still has the technology. It's a beautiful car. I saw the self-driving features last weekend at the Tyson's Corner Facility Service Center. So you could see the car, and people worry about autonomous cars. I think the software is going to be better than most human drivers because it's not distracted, it's not falling asleep,
Right.
it's not aggressive, it doesn't get angry, it's patient. So we watched one of the cars back up without passengers in it, and somebody walked behind the car, and the car came to a stop.
Yeah.
So the new cars, I think, will be autonomous enabled and have the sensors built in. So it'll start to allow people to avoid the cumbersome task of having to pay attention to especially the low speed traffic. I think that people encumber in the DC area.
Right. I had an experience in February of being a passenger in an Audi that was autonomous driven, and it only will drive on the interstate highways right now, but it was rather amazing. You can set it to either drive at the speed limit or drive at the prevailing speed. And we were riding at the prevailing speed, which, as you know, is always above the speed limit. But it decides, for example, if there's a car ahead that it needs to pass, it just passes the car, gets back in the lane. If the lane you're in is one where it feeds by a exit or whatever, it will move over so people can join. It's quite an amazing experience. And there was no jerkiness about the driving. It was just as smooth as though a race car driver was driving it. So I was very impressed. And of course, that's outside of the matter of the propulsion being electric. That happens to be, I think you're going to see increasingly on more cars, self-parking and all those sort of things.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January, and I
Yeah.
saw them talking a lot about that there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to get them where they drive on any street, not just on the interstate highway, which is also kind of blows my mind. But apparently that technology is coming.
It is.
Yeah. The battery technology, do you see further advances? I know that Tesla continues to work on that, and I guess that's primarily an issue of weight and I guess in volume, isn't it?
I think battery technology has always been a challenge. I think as more and more people buy into the technology, that you're going to see more rapid advancements happening in that. I think with Tesla, Elon Musk from Tesla is also at SpaceX. So when you're in the space arena, There's, I think, opportunities to leverage investments there because when you're in space, you need the batteries, battery capability as well.
The prices
Well,
should come down. The prices ought to come down.
And the
with
prices will
solar,
come down.
with
Yeah.
the solar
Prices are definitely
charging, I
coming
think
down.
it becomes less of an issue when you have solar panels everywhere.
We have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Electric transportation, it's here now. These folks are evidence of that, and it's something that we can all invest in. It makes a difference in their environment. This is Ken Plum. I want to thank you for being with us on Virginia Report. Join us next time. Good night.